Yo, what up gamers, my name is VaporDark and I'm a Master Tier ADC main. Miss Fortune just got buffed and is the best ADC in the game right now, so what better time to make a guide for her. Miss Fortune is a versatile ADC which can deal a lot of auto attack DPS in team fights while also having access to the strongest AoE ultimate in the game, able to decimate entire team comps if they're clumped up. In this guide, I'll run you through the basics you need to know in order to succeed with Miss Fortune ADC. Starting off with her abilities, Miss Fortune's passive is Love Tap. Miss Fortune's auto attacks are empowered to apply a mark which expires upon attacking a new enemy. Whenever Miss Fortune auto attacks an unmarked target, she deals between 50% and 100% extra damage, scaling with level. This damage is halved against minions. This passive allows Miss Fortune to excel on short trades as it causes her damage to be very upfront, so ideally you'll want trades to be nice and short so you have time to reset your passive onto minions. It also means that late game when the passive is maxed out, if she were to constantly alternate autos between two different targets, she would deal the same damage to both of them as if she were only focusing one of them, as every auto would be doubled in damage while the autos would only be dealing regular damage if she didn't alternate targets. However, don't tunnel vision too hard on this since a lot of the time you would have to miss position to be able to focus two champions at once, given that her auto attack range is fairly low. Love Tap's bonus damage also works on turrets, making you very effective at taking turrets in the right circumstances when paired with her W passive, which we'll cover later. Miss Fortune is also the easiest ADC to lost hit with by far thanks to Love Tap, so if you typically struggle with lost hitting, then Miss Fortune may be the champion for you. Miss Fortune's Q is Double Up. Miss Fortune fires a shot at the target enemy that deals physical damage, which then bounces to hit another enemy behind them. The shot applies on-hit effects to both enemies hit. Double Up's bounce also has the ability to crit based on your crit chance. However, if Double Up kills its primary target, the bounce is guaranteed to critically strike. This ability gives Miss Fortune long-range poke in lane, and a key aspect of mastering her is to learn the angles and distances you can use to harass the enemies by bouncing it off of minions. You can also set up the minions to die to the cost, ensuring that the ensuing bounce is a crit and deals double damage. Double Up used to have a set cost time and could feel very clunky to use late game when you had a lot of attack speed, making you feel like you were losing DPS because you weren't auto-attacking as much as you could be. As of patch 12.17, this ability now costs as fast as your autos do, which makes it a huge boon to your short-term DPS. In lane phase, it's now become much smoother to trade with as well, either allowing you to get your PTA proc faster or get your 2-hit harass combo off faster. My biggest piece of advice concerning Double Up is to not tunnel vision too hard on trying to always harass with Q bounces. It's a solid trading tool even when used straight up with an auto attack into Q combo, especially if you can squeeze in an extra auto for a PTA proc. Likewise though, don't tunnel vision too hard on getting the third auto in, if a shorter trade would work better in the matchup. Miss Fortune's W is Strut. The passive is that Miss Fortune gains 25 bonus movement speed after 5 seconds of not taking damage. After another 5 seconds of not taking damage, this bonus is increased to between 55 and 95 movement speed based on level. All movement speed bonuses are lost upon taking damage. Its active is that Miss Fortune instantly gains the full movement speed value and gains between 40% and 100% attack speed for 4 seconds. Using Love Tap reduces Strut's cooldown by 2 seconds. With a 12-second cooldown, this means that hitting 4 targets with a Love Tap is enough to keep Strut on 100% uptime. Giving up to 100% bonus attack speed with potentially limitless uptime, alongside the insane amount of movement speed it gives, this is Miss Fortune's strongest basic ability by far. You may get more laning power from Double Up since early game you won't have enough items to fully take advantage of Strut's attack speed steroid, but nothing can match the DPS and mobility of Strut. I recommend putting 3 points in Double Up early on for the laning power and then fully maxing Strut for level 10, having it maxed in time for any mid-game skirmishes. This ability is also great for taking turrets. Using your passive to swap targets between the turret and minions up to 4 times, you can maintain permanent Strut uptime while you make hasty work of any turret, provided you have nearby minions to keep resetting Strut with. Thanks to Love Tap, you also barely lose damage onto the turret by having to switch focus onto minions too, and at level 18 you don't lose any damage at all. Miss Fortune Z is Make It Rain. Miss Fortune casts a storm of bullets at the target location for 2 seconds, dealing constant magic damage to enemies within and slowing them by 50%. The slow used to scale with levels, but in an effort to kill Emacs Comet Fortune, they kept the slow static at all levels, reduced its base damage, and nerfed how much its cooldown was reduced per levels, making it a much poorer choice to max and spam now. That being said, thanks to the buff to rank 1 slow, it's also much better as a 1-point wonder ability, where your only use for it when you aren't maxing it is for the slow. You can use this to either keep your enemies slowed into your ultimate for a little bit longer, slow them to chase them down with autos, or even slow them to try and set up an easier skill shot for your support. Sometimes you can even use it to keep an enemy within range of minions long enough for your Q to bounce onto them. Either way, at 80 mana, each cost comes at a hefty price, so make sure each cost has a distinct purpose with considerable gain, and you're not just costing it willy-nilly, you silly Billy. Miss Fortune Zara's Bullet Time. Misfortune channels for up to 3 seconds, firing several waves of bullets in the target direction, each wave dealing 75% of her AD as damage. Each wave also has a chance to crit based on your crit chance for 20% extra damage. It won't deal double damage like regular crits because that damage would be obscene, but it ensures your ultimate will continue dealing considerable damage even if you build crit over lethality. The obvious use of Misfortune's ultimate is as an AoE damage tool. It shines in tight corridors where the enemies have no room to move, and when paired with lockdown CC from your allies to ensure they can't escape the damage, making Misfortune especially effective with lockdown supports in lane. However, if you spend all game searching for the perfect AoE ultimate, you may find yourself rarely using it at all. So another great use of it is as a DPS tool into targets who have escaped your range, especially when combined with her E. This ability also makes Misfortune especially effective into immobile ADCs in lane. Someone like Jinx is on average going to take far more damage from your ultimate than an ADC like Ezreal. It's often a great idea to use your ultimate combined with the E to harass an opponent if you know they have no mobility spells to escape it, and have no tools to cancel your ultimate, and will be forced to lose half their HP just walking out of it. Even if it doesn't kill them, it still puts you at a great advantage in lane. This is especially smart if you don't have a lockdown support, so there's no better situation to save your ultimate for. Now let's talk about Misfortune's builds. Early data at first glance would seem to indicate that crit is by far the best build for Misfortune on 12.17, but taking a closer look, it seems that lethality Misfortune running Eclipse also has a very good win rate so long as you max Q, the same as crit Misfortune. Lethality Misfortune is currently only down in win rate to crit Fortune because most people still haven't stopped maxing the nerfed E with it, while every crit user is maxing Q. When maxing Q, both builds actually seem to perform about the same, so you have the option of running either crit or lethality depending on factors like how tanky the enemy team is and what your preferred playstyle is. I would say the main factor is playstyle. If you prefer playing Misfortune for the large AoE ultimates, lethality fits better with this playstyle. If you enjoy Misfortune more for the high APM attack speed gameplay, then crit is for you. The only important thing is that you make sure you're not running lethality Misfortune into comps against tanks, since that build can lack the appropriate DPS to deal with them. When facing squishy comps, however, both builds are effective. We'll talk about Misfortune's crit itemization first. Typically, you'll want to build Kraken Slayer first item since the item passive is insane with your max W. Follow it up with either Collector second item if you want to maximize your ultimate on auto attack damage, or Bloodthirster if you want to add some survivability into the mix. Bloodthirster is amazing on Misfortune because Strut's loss of movement speed on taking damage doesn't actually count unless it damages your HP bar, so Bloodthirster's overshield will protect your movement speed being taken off from small damage sources like minions. That being said, it's 400 gold more expensive to Collector just to have the same AD and no lethality, so it's definitely a hit to your damage. Overall though, both builds are fine, and I would say Bloodthirster is more effective the more ahead you are, as your damage is always fine when ahead, and the survivability makes you harder for enemies to deal with. Sometimes you may be forced to build Lord Dominik's Regard's second item to deal with high amounts of armor on the enemy team. Third item should always be Infinity Edge regardless of what your second item was, as it's the biggest power spike you can get at this stage. After Infinity Edge, your build becomes open to situational choices, though you would generally rather leave purely defensive choices until final item, unless you're very ahead. Your situational choices are Lord Dominik's Regards to deal with high armor, Bloodthirster if you don't already have it for general survivability mixed with high damage, Guardian Angel for cheap survivability, Mortal Reminder for anti-heal, Fire Cannon as a poke-oriented damage item, Mauvman Mortius to counter magic damage burst, and Mercurial Scimitar to deal with specific troublesome CCs. Next up for the lethality build, your first item should always be Eclipse. Since you're not going for the Comet E-spam playstyle, whether you want to build Tear of the Goddess is completely optional. Extra mana is nice and more mana will definitely help you scale better, but you won't need the extra mana to function. So you can consider the Mana Moon build a better scaling version of the lethality build. If you're not taking more mana though, your second item should be Collector. Your third item on both builds will be Cerulda's Grudge, as armor counts will start to be building up and the slow is amazing for your ultimate. From there, we get onto situational items. Youmuu's tends to be the best follow-up item as the active is amazing and gives a nice blend of damage and CDR. You can build Edge of Night for general survivability. Guardian Angel is also a solid choice for survivability, though it gives up more damage compared to going Edge of Night. Mauvman Mortius will help you survive through magic damage burst. Serpent's Fang will help you deal with high amounts of armor on the enemy team. And Kempunk Chainsword will help you deal with high amounts of healing. Now that we've covered itemization and the two different style of builds you can go for in Misfortune, let's talk about her runes. If you're going crit, I advise using PTA, since it's a solid mix of great trading power and DPS. Next, your choices are Overheal, Triumph, or Presence of Mind. All three choices are pretty good here since Misfortune is very reliant on mana. Triumph is good on pretty much any champion, and Overheal has that special synergy with her W. Next you want Bloodline, and then Coup de Grace or Cut Down depending on how tanky the enemy comp looks to be. For a secondary tree, I advise running Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for the amazing scaling. If you're going lethality, I'd advise running Dark Harvest, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter with Manaflow Band and Gathering Storm. And with that, I believe I've covered everything you need to get started on playing Miss Fortune after her changes in 12.17. I hope you guys found this helpful. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and let me know in the comments what champion you'd like to see a guide for next. Follow me on Twitch using the link in the description to hang out with me live, and I hope to see you all on the next video. Until next time, gamers.